Okay, my name is Andy Morales, my brother Javier Morales, and Troy Hutchison, not my brother, but he's with us at All Sports Tucson. And we're at the weekly high school preview show where we cover all sports. Obviously, we're in the football season now. Very quickly, I'll be at some golf this weekend also. We have the Champions Cup tomorrow, and there's also a tournament at Tucson Omni. So lots of sports going on, but we're going to quickly go through some highlights from last week, football season. We have some big games. Pueblo over Sunnyside, which moved Pueblo to 4-0. One win away from 5-0, which they haven't done since 1958. So, do you want to talk about it? Who wants to talk about that game a little bit?
The game was as good as this final score was, 22-21. Sunnyside really hurt themselves with some bad penalties there at the end. They had a personal foul call on Pueblo's last drive. They could have stopped and he got the ball back, but Pueblo got a first down. They had an illegal procedure call on the field goal that put them ahead with about 3 minutes left. So the kicker had to try it again. They missed it. And they had some holding calls that took away, Angel Cano had a 41-yard touchdown run taken away by a holding call. So penalties really did them in. Sunnyside is better than their record indicates. They could have beat Desert View. They dropped a lot of passes. Then they had a lot of penalties in that. They had a fumble at the 5-yard line driving the ball. So Sunnyside is better than the record. They do play Saguaro this week, so that's a tough challenge for them. But it was a good game. Glenn Posey versus Brandon Sanders, two really tough guys when it comes to coaching. Glenn Posey tried for a fourth down in one play on their first drive in the second half at midfield. They didn't get it. Pueblo went down and scored a touchdown. That was a big momentum changer, but I don't blame Posey for that try. It's kind of like a statement, like, this is our field, we're going to go out and get this game. He wanted his kids to get that first down. They couldn't get it, and things kind of unraveled from there.
Troy?
But, when you look back at that game, like you said, Sunnyside's better than their record. I think that's what it takes to grow a program. It's growing pains right now. They're in a lot of games. They're not quite getting it done. Going for it on 4th and 1, I think that's all about culture change, and I think Glenn Posey's doing a great job of that, and next year they're going to pay dividends for that. Even though they're taking the lumps this year, next year they're probably going to be a really solid football team because most of their team is coming back.
I saw there was also a play there where Pueblo thought they scored on a fumble that was knocked in the air, and they picked it off and ran it for a touchdown, but the official said it touched the ground.
So the refs actually said there was an inadvertent whistle blown before that play took place. So they just redid the play. But looking at the replay on the Pueblo Twitter feed, that was an interception, and that should have been a touchdown the other way. But yeah, the ref's call was that it was an inadvertent whistle.
Okay, another one which was not too shocking, but a little interesting. Mountain View over Tucson High 12-0. It really hurts, in my mind, it hurts Tucson High's playoff chances. Even though maybe 4 or 5 teams are going to be moving up to the Open Division 6A, Tucson High has to finish in the top 20, and they have to hope Mountain View wins a lot of games now. And Tucson High owes Sell Point now, so it's going to be a very difficult couple of weeks. So, and Mountain View, if you recall, they started out 0-5 last year, still won their region, but didn't make the playoffs, because a lot of people still don't realize region play is nice in 6A and 5A, but it does not get you to the playoffs. Do you want to talk about that high game? Anybody?
I think the most shocking stat of that is 12-0. You don't see a lot of football games at any level end 12-0 in a low-scoring defensive matchup, and I think Matt Johnson getting his first win at Mountain View, that could be a change. Kind of changing for Mountain View, but it shows growth because their first 3 games, it was not looking good, but I think that culture change is happening there. Tucson High, like you said, that's a huge loss for them because you look up and down that schedule, they play a lot of Phoenix teams, and they're going to have to start collecting more wins here, if I could talk. And when you look up and down that schedule, it's hard to find the wins.
Do you? Okay, we'll talk about them when we're looking forward. I was at the South Point Cactus game, and Cactus was number 4 in the state, on the media poll, because official polls haven't come out yet, and South Point was number 2. Some people have Cactus number 3. There's a big divide between Scottsdale Saguaro and South Point and the rest of the state. If Cactus was the number 3 team in the state, then there's going to be a problem for 4A. They're all going to be hoping that both Scottsdale Saguaro and South Point make the open division, because it's not going to be close. That game with Cactus was over in the first 30 seconds when Bijan touched the ball, and it was just score left, score right, and I believe the final score was 54-8, but it could have been a lot worse. Phoenix some more Phoenix players got to see what Bijan and Lathan Ransom were really like in that defense. About 3 or 4 guys there are D1 players. But we can touch on South Point a little bit more, but did that score shock you when you saw it coming across?
I thought South Point would win that game. I think they'd win that badly because Cactus is a good team. The key thing, I mean, Bijan had his game and Lathan had his game, but Jackson Bolin, the quarterback, he came out of nowhere. It's his best performance yet as a Lancer. If they get that passing game opened up with Bijan, they're going to be hard to stop. Their defense is already good on the line. I know they've had some injuries, but they're going to be, their line play is really good.
Yeah, they were pretty much having their will with the Cactus line in both offense and defense.
I think the biggest takeaway for me of that game, because I was there as well, is that they could do whatever they wanted. Pass the ball, run the ball. It didn't matter. They were going to score either way, any way that they wanted. So when you open up that passing game, like you were saying, that's another dimension that we really haven't seen from South Point in the last couple of years. They haven't been able to sling the ball around. So I think having that passing ability is going to open up the field for Bijan, because now you don't have to worry about just Bijan. You have to worry about the receivers, and it's going to spread the field. In my opinion, it was a growing game, even though they handled themselves extremely well. I think it was 27-0 at the end of the first quarter. But when you are opening up that passing game, it just gives yourself more options.
Yeah, just imagine Lathan Ransom running free in the secondary and having a corner and a safety try to guard him. That's just going to be taken to a different level. And obviously Lathan was our player of the week. These guys could be player of the week every week, and I always joke with the South Point players that that we can be there every week. It's basically a team award, but there were other players that we felt had great weeks, and you guys want to talk about some of those players?
Well, you're going to see one of them tomorrow at Walden Grove, Rick Avalar, the linebacker. 12 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a sack. Walden Grove has a great defense. They had a lapse against Casa Grande 2 weeks ago, but their defense is really good. Cam Gaddis is one of their assistant coaches. He tweeted out this week that they have an interception in each game. 5 different players have had an interception. So they're hard to run against. They're hard to pass against. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play out against Glendale, another Phoenix team coming here. Walnut Grove looks every bit the part if their defense keeps up, and they have some great offensive players too, right?
Anyone else you saw had a great week?
Well, going back real quick to the South Point game, who had a great week there was Jackson Bolin, 9 of 13, 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, phenomenal week. And then you look across the board, and Sabino, I was not at that game, and I personally do not know the stats, but they beat Blue Ridge 23-6, and Skaggs was probably a big part of that. So I'm assuming he had a really big week. I don't know if you know the official stats to that game.
Okay, so let's quickly go through some games next week. There's obviously going to be some records, that may be approached, and they're pretty big. We can start with the South Point Tucson. Bijan, I believe, is 366 yards away from setting the new big school record. And I don't think people know how big that is. I mean, that's like one game for him away from all those great running backs in the history of Arizona. And only 184 yards away from passing Kadeem Carey for the city championship, for the city record. And they're playing Tucson High, so Javier's going to be at that game. And hopefully he'll get some video of it's going to be interesting if they want to break that on the road or what they want to do. But that's a pretty big record.
It's, like you said, Bijan's 366 yards away from breaking the 4A through 6A record, only 184. You could get that by halftime. No discredit to Tucson High or not. This is how good Bijan is. And in the overall state record, it looks like a long shot. But if he keeps those numbers up of 200 yards a game and they go into the playoffs 3 games, possibility. But we went and talked to him this week, and he's sincere when he said he's not thinking about the records. They're nice and everything. There's something that he can remember and that his grandfather Cleo can talk about. But he's genuine, and it's good to see a kid like that do so well and means so much to Tucson high school football overall. I wish there was a lot more like him in Lathan, and hopefully there will be some more that they can be models for people coming up. There are some good players in TYF that we know of. And hopefully they keep on progressing to be like that. Maybe it's hard to be as talented, but be that good and be that good of a kid is what's important.
What's important about that is a lot of kids and families especially would get upset. Here you have a guy 120 yards by halftime and you don't give him the ball anymore because you have other players. That would upset a lot of families in football. But the Robinson family is all about team and all about how you present yourself, being a professional, and it is doing the right thing. And the right thing now is the family, their team. And you were at that game. It could have easily been, and I'm not joking, it could have been 100-6 easily.
Well, I mean, it was 47-8 at halftime, I believe, and they only scored 7 points in the second half. They're bringing in other players, not passing the ball as much, but yeah, it could have been a 100-point performance, and he could have possibly, gotten near that city record that night. And it just goes to show not only how incredible Bijan is on and off the field, and I think that's one of the things that sticks out to me is what kind of person he is off the field. But how deep South Point is this year, because their backup, David Cordero, he's had a really good season too. He's been scoring as well. They're just incredibly talented, and it should be a good one at Tucson High. I think that's going to be an exciting night.
Another record that, just leafing through the record book, I saw that Giovanni Barbone for Buena was 255 yards away from 5,000 career passing yards. And only, I think, 8 guys in the history of Southern Arizona have ever passed for over 5,000. Obviously, Rhett Rod is at the top with 8,000 something. But that's incredible for a city like Sierra Vista to have a kid like that. And he's also a good kid.
He's also a kid that says, yes, sir, thank you, sir. He's very well-mannered, and he's a leader. He's another coach on the field. And now he's broadening his game. He's playing defense. He didn't play defense at all last year. He played his freshman and sophomore year, but last year they concentrated more on quarterback only. But this year he's playing safety. He led the team in tackles last week, and he had a great game, a better game than he did when we gave him the Player of the Week the week before. But he's really close to 5,000 yards passing, which is phenomenal for a guy like him he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's like 5'10", 180. He's more of like a running quarterback type, but he's got a great arm and he's very accurate with his arm.
I neglected to mention that Tucson High South Point game. This is Justin Argrave's 100th game coaching as a high school coach, which is important. We were colleagues. We taught together. He taught my kid when my daughter was younger at one of our schools. And then Pueblo, we need to touch on them very quickly because they're going to be playing Catalina Foothills, which is where Mike Wells used to coach there. Pueblo has the possibility of going 5-0 for the first time since 1958. And that's just incredible. That year, that team started out 10-0-1, but in 1958 there were no 2A state playoffs. So there was no Midvale State Championship unless someone wrote it down because there's always a mythical state champion. I'm going to be at the Walden Grove game because that's Glendale 3-1 and Walden Grove 3-1. A very important 4A game. It's a week before region starts for a lot of these teams. In 4A, region play does matter. You could go 5-5. There have been years where teams have finished 3-7 and made the playoffs because they won the region. And that's one reason why 5A didn't want to do that, because they felt that teams didn't deserve to make the playoffs. But I'm interested to see some of those defenders on that Walden Grove team and the Twins and how they're going to handle the Phoenix thing. Mountain View Cienega, that used to be heated rivalry. It's going to be interesting how Johnson handles it. See, Cienega has got to make a move quickly to take over that 5A range for Southern Arizona. But how do you see that game?
You know, I don't know if I can get a feeling for this game, but I mean, it's a weird year a little bit in 5A. Usually Cienega holds in the reins, Ironwood coming right there, and nobody's really taking control of it. So it's, like you said, it's a critical time of the season for both schools. Last time, if you remember, Matt Johnson, when he was there with Ironwood, they upset Cienega to sneak into the playoffs. I believe at 6-4 was their record. So he's been there, done that against Cienega, and this time it's Mountain View Cienega, and it should be a good game Friday night at Cienega. And you know, whoever wins that game, that's a lot of momentum moving forward for them.
And then we have Ben Franklin 5-0 at Sabino 3-1. Phoenix, Sabino at Ben Franklin. Phoenix likes to do the first and last name for their high schools. It's totally different. We don't name high schools after people in Southern Arizona. Maybe I think South Point's the exception. We name them after plants or mountains, but they have Sandra Day O'Connor. They have Benjamin Franklin. We would just make it Franklin. But the way the schedule goes out, Sabino is going to be another run, just like last year. Loses Saguaro, go on a big run, and right now they have Skaggs, and we're going to quickly go over our top 3 players from Southern Arizona. But you also have Diego Armijo on defense there. That's a great team, and it's 3A.
Right, their defense is what carries them. They had an off game against Saguaro. Saguaro was 5-0 for a reason, so that obviously they had a tough matchup there. But Skaggs is one of the better quarterbacks. He's only a junior, so he's kind of like a Bourbon type. He's going to be, when he's a senior next year, he'll be one of the best quarterbacks in the city. He already is one of them. But their defense is really what's kept them in games. Blue Ridge only scored 6 points against them. Saguaro's running game when they played Saguaro was just overpowering. I mean, you have Isaiah Davis, Trevian Watkins. They were just too much. But talking to the Sabino coach, he was even though they lost that game, he was still, we're thinking about now, next week, the week after that. He kind of knew that they still had a good team, but they went up against a really good team in Saguaro.
Yeah, so let's quickly go over our top 3 players. We'll start with, I'll let you guys chime in. This is any man's guess. We can also do the top coach in Southern Arizona. That's up in the air too. Or the top 3 football teams. Who's number 3? So, or who's number 2 in Southern Arizona actually? So, who's your top 3 players?
Well, you know, I split time between high school football and U of A soccer, so I haven't seen as many players as you guys have, but my top 3 players that I've seen, Bijan Robinson, number 1. I think he probably might be the best player in the whole entire state. Lathan Ransom, number 2. And then number 3, Skaggs from Sabino. I mean, he had a phenomenal game when I went out to Sabino, Catalina Foothills. He missed a couple throws downfield, 30 yards downfield, wide open, but he hits those. We're talking about almost a 300 night for him passing. And still with those being missed, he passed for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He does a great job of picking apart a defense slowly and methodically downfield. And I think that's one of the more intriguing things about him. It's not long ball after long ball. I mean, he picks a defense apart.
Javier, who are your top 3 players so far that you've seen?
I've seen Bourbon. I've seen our top receiver now in Southern Arizona, Keon Taylor, who's his top target. He's only a sophomore. I've seen Serge Bowe from Desavue, only a sophomore. So those two guys have really stood out to me, along with Giovanni. Giovanni had an 94-yard touchdown pass to Taylor, and Taylor had a 96-yard run in that game. So he was unbelievable. Those are two, Taylor and Bowe are two names we're going to be reading about here in the next few years. I've also seen Angel Canyo at Sunnyside, tremendous talent. He's going to be a senior next year. I saw Skaggs play for Sabino against Saguaro. He had a tough game. Still hung in there to the end, great talent. So I've seen a fair share of players, but the top player that I would take out of all those right now is Giovanni Bobone, just the way he leads the team in his production overall.
And again, these are the top three we've seen. Javier has not seen South Point yet. I'll see him Friday night. But my three team players I've seen this year, obviously, Bijan Robinson, Lathan Ransom, and then I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to go Isaiah Davis, Skaggs, Barbone, and Diego Armijo. Those are my 3A, B, C, however that goes. And then what I'm looking forward to this week is coming up. I just want to see some Tucson teams step up, besides South Point. Because that's all people in Phoenix area want to talk about, and I want to be able to talk about other teams, and there's teams that's ready for a great chance to make a statement. And what are some of the things you're looking for this weekend?
This Friday night, I'm looking forward to two games in particular. Pueblo, they have a chance to go 5-0, like you're saying, for the first time since 58. So that's a great job there. Brandon Sanders has turned that team around, and they really take on the mentality of their head coach. You look out there, and they're a really good defensive team, just like Brandon was for the Desert Swarm. And then you look at Ben Franklin hosting Sabino, and going up there, Sabino has the chance to go 4-1, and after that, you look at the rest of the schedule, and they could be sitting at maybe 9-1, 8-2 at the end of the year. So I mean, that great job by by Ryan McBrayer after that tough Saguaro loss, changing the mentality of the team around, and they're on a roll. So I'm excited to see their game up in Ben Franklin.
Javier, what are you looking forward to Friday night?
Well, I'm gonna be at the South Point Tucson game, so I'm looking forward to possibly Bijan breaking the city record, maybe the state record if he has another 400-yard game, which he's capable of. But also, we're gonna have Mike Wells from Palo Verde up here pretty soon. Who would have thought in week 5 that Palo Verde or Rincon will have a winning record? Because that's what will happen. Either one of those teams is going to be 3-2 after Friday, after 5 games, and that to me is greater to see than a team that you see always win be 5-0 or 6-0. The teams that have struggled a lot, to get them to be competitive, that's just going to bring up the whole level of talent in Tucson and the whole level of competition. So it's exciting to see that Rincon and Palo Verde are playing in a meaningful game on week 5 of the season, and it's because of the coaches. Mike Wells has a tremendous background with Jeff Skurin. We had Mike Strack last week here. He's got a good coaching background, played at Centennial. He's grown up in university athletics, so it's great to see that schools like that, the neighborhood schools, are doing so well. And that's, if I'm living in this area and Palo Verde's right there, I'd go watch the game because it's going to be competitive.
I think that's a great point. The inner city school, although I didn't graduate from Sunnyside, we're both Southsiders, and we know the importance of the city schools and schools like Saguaro and Rincon and Palo Verde. To be in the mix for football is very important, not to be dominated by the suburban schools or the private schools, and these aren't like destination schools. So no one's out recruiting to come to these schools, and to have neighborhood kids do really well. It's very important, not just for that school, but for the city and for athletics.
Yeah, I went to a small school, but my mom went to Palo Verde, and when she was there for years, I think they had, she was there 4 years, they had 1 or 2 wins while she was there. So to see them now 2-2 and having a chance to go over 500 if they beat Rincon. And same for Rincon, 2-2 as well. That's really impressive, and it's great to see. There's a little bit more parity out there right now.
Okay, so I think we touched upon everything, and next week is the big game is South Point and Saguaro. That's going to be basically the Southern Arizona game of the week. I mean, that's going to be huge. And then we're going to figure out where we're going to be at that week. It's hard to tell. But for Andy Morales, my brother Javier Morales, for Hutchinson, we're at Wings Over Broadway at Camino Seco. This is the All Sports Tucson High School Preview Show.